Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
now we've got a standard for everyone else to match.
Yep, absolutely. So let's move on to Farron. And I apologize. That'll go much quicker in the future when I have it more fleshed out. Just FYI, bear with me.
Yeah, that was like tutorial mode.
Yeah, that was tutorial mode.
I
Farron.
am currently unimpressed.
It's very abstracted and still allows the players to do cool things. That's basically the goal. Farron McKibe, you need to make me some rolls. So you travel with the scouts. You travel quite quickly because they know the land really well. And when you reach the edge of the village, how do you want to go about inspecting this? You don't see any signs of life or movement or anything else going on inside the village from your initial vantage point. How do you want to go about inspecting it and figuring out what happened here?
I mean, we're all super sneaky scouts, so initially super sneakily.
So you want to do it silently? Okay.
Yeah, whilst we're investigating.
Okay, cool. So roll me a stealth roll. Roll me a investigation roll. And then for your third roll, I would like a... In fact, roll those two, and then I'll tell you what your third roll is. Those two will determine your third roll.
Well, I'm going to use my inspiration on the investigation roll.
Okay.
So for stealth.
Nice. So a 20 on the stealth. And I actually have to roll for them, too, because they are with you.
17 on the investigation.
Nice. That's a good inspiration use, I think. Let me roll some stealth for these guys. They're actually real good at stealth. Wow, yeah. 20 all around. And then also roll some investigation. Okay. So the investigation is fairly good. So you find that it appears that the people here were not all killed when this initial onslaught came through. And based on what you know, the bodies that you do, I should say, you don't find any bodies of any humans here. You do find some livestock that is left and is rotting now, but their wounds appear consistent with the wounds of the previous that you previously saw on the scouts before. So reasonably, you could assume whatever did that also did this. So there you go. Boom. Awesome. Great investigation. And as your scouts are kind of traipsing through, and as you're traipsing through, you are inside of a house and you hear some muffled sobbing, and you find that there's a trap door, and you open it up and it leads to a cellar, and there appears to be about 20 townsfolk packed into this cellar, and this smell of rancid human just wafts up as you open up the cellar, the trapdoor hatch. And there are people that are covering their eyes. You can see the old and infirm, and a couple of women and children with their daughters and sons, and they all appear a bit malnourished and dehydrated. The food and water that lasted in here has since been depleted. So the third roll I want you to make me is a persuasion roll.
Brilliant. Hey, it's okay now. It's a rescue you.
Nice.
Oh god.
Fucking 29. Yeah. So yeah, you set your scouts to helping them out and giving them water and food and stuff, right? And you get the 20 townsfolk out, and they're all thanking you and shaking your hand, and they're almost to the point of worshiping you for saving them, you're their savior, the light in the darkness for these 20 people. If you were a lord, they would become your vassals quite easily.
Just need to get into nobility.
Yeah, totally. And that means something completely different to Farron than it does to everybody else.
I've already done it. Already.
Sorry, the joke was there. I'm sorry, Megan. I apologize. It was too good. Yeah, it was good. So you're able to rescue the villagers. You're able to determine that the village appears raised by the same entities, which we can reasonably assume at this point where the same things Arcadi met in the forest, right? And yeah, it's amazing. It's fantastic. You succeed on all counts for your checks, and you're able to recruit 20 more townsfolk to help work back at the camp, because they're gonna follow you now. They are, for all intents and purposes, your resource now. So, in your inventory, write down 20 towns. I'm just kidding. Don't write 20 townsfolk in your inventory.
So we've improved the supply.
Yeah, exactly. If we were playing a game like, for example, I've been playing Banner Saga lately. If we were playing Banner Saga, you would add some townsfolk and add some supply, and you'd be good. So yeah, cool.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Congratulations, Farron. And as that one went much quicker than the other one, Hannibal D. Solomon. You travel for the day to Middleweg, the town, and you're traveling with a group of knights. So your entourage is fairly boisterous. The knights and their squires are riding with their banners flapping in the wind, and you all look very regal and elegant. I
decided to wear my fancy mask.
Right, yeah, sure, totally. And as you begin approaching the village, like one of the knights calls for a halt because there are some townsfolk coming out to greet you, and you can see that like a couple of them are like have their pitchforks in their hand. So the 3 rolls I need you to make are: can you make me a persuasion roll? Can you make me a what's probably investigation. In fact, actually, I should mention this. Whenever I ask for a persuasion roll, you could also roll deception if you wanted to. Just FYI to everybody involved.
What about intimidation?
Intimidation is also a valid option.
Okay, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I want to offer to this village in particular is my services as a spellcaster, Winley Plant Growth. I can enrich all their crops for the next year.
Okay. All right, so you want to use that in your persuasion, basically.
Yeah.
So I will give you... okay. So here's what I want from you. I want a performance check first. Then I want a persuasion or deception or intimidation. And I will allow you to make that roll with advantage because you're offering them something wonderful.
Okay, so you want performance
first, then persuasion with advantage, and then I want you to roll an insight check as your third check.
Okay, I'm going to I'll use inspiration on my investigation.
There was no investigation check.
Oh, wait. Okay,
performance, persuasion, insight. Okay.
Okay, performance not performance. Damn it.
Performance is plain.
Regular,
yeah.
Last 2 advantage.
Got it. Roll them up.
Performance.
Okay, 14's not bad.
Alright, these 2 with advantage.
Yep. Cool.
22. And advantage again. Not great on that one.
Yeah, totally. So your performance check is to the initial reactions and how everything is introduced to these people, right? That's what the performance check is for. And you perform admirably. You say, hey, listen, we're with the upcoming army. We need you to gather some supplies and collect them up and make it so that when we pass through here, you guys will be ready to hand over your supplies. And then that's where you transition into when you return, I will bless your crops for the upcoming year so that you may have plentiful growth, etc., etc. And the townsfolk seem like there's probably a bit of grumbling that you can see, right? The army, but you have the knights with you, right? You are an apt representative of the emperor. And so they all acquiesce with your request. You meet with some of the leaders of the village to get everything collected and et cetera, et cetera. And then upon everything kind of being written out and set out, why don't we see the scene really quickly of you going and blessing their crops? What does that look like?
It takes 8 hours.
Right, so you're going to have to spend the day, the rest of the day here doing that, right?
So it's basically Hannibal goes out into the middle of a farm field and requests one of the villagers to bring him water because this is what he's got to do. It's going to take a while. And you see his hands kind of... He starts to begin to cast a spell, and his hands change to a kind of wood as he sticks his arms just down to the soil, and you can feel his hands begin to spread out over the land.
Yeah, so are you like sitting cross-legged with like your hands on either side of you, like basically like meditating, but like casting your spell, basically?
Yeah, my
your
hands
ritual?
are literally into the ground.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think that the villager is just like watching in awe of this as this happens. And again, effects won't matter right immediately. We don't see them immediately, but yeah, you have blessed this land with a great boon, and whether or not they believe it will actually happen is another story.
Mm-hmm.
But
that one villager just saw me fucking go full.
Yeah, full. He probably thinks you're like a druid now or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what he assumes now.
I might need to clarify that later, but whatever.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you know, you can still, like, speak at certain intervals because it doesn't take, like, 8 hours of straight casting. And so, like, you know, he's there because your hands are in the ground. He's there to, like, you know, ladle you some water or, you know, give you some crackers or bread or something so that you don't die as you're doing this.
Gotta be hot.
Yeah, and I think that right before you go to leave, after that's all done, like, maybe it's nighttime and you're getting ready to head back to the camp, that villager, he comes, like, kind of, like, trundling out with, like, a pack on, and, he says he wants to follow you, Hannibal.
Oh. Okay, sure. Come on.
His name is John.
Alright, I'll write him down in my inventory.
Yeah, there you go. Bad
Alright,
jokes.
so yeah, no, I'll take him along, sure.
Yeah, you've essentially gained a squire or an apprentice of some sort. You have inspired
cool.
this man to follow you around and help you. So maybe butler too. If he has no magical talent, maybe he just becomes a butler or a vassal. But yeah, no, you've inspired him with your great show of display of magic that he is now going to follow you around.
Fuck yeah, sure.
Cool.
I got the coolest
ram
thing.
a branch through his chest.
Oh, that's what he needs to complete the Hannibal visage.
Right. No, obviously. So all of everybody returns back home.
And we stay the night, and...
Yeah, so it's basically the next day, right? So you traveled like a day out, and then it's the next day, and you guys get back home.
Levels.
So
Yes, if any of you got levels, now is the time to display that.
Okay.
And there's a reason why I saved it for now, because you guys had needed like a long rest or whatever. But
Okay, so I think Creed did too, right?
Yeah.
everybody should be
took-
level 10 now.
I took a level in Sorcerer.
Ah. Oh, I forgot to do that thing for you, Hannibal. I apologize.
It's cool.
Fine. It's fine.
But yeah, so basically I took Wild Magic. Because fuck everybody else and everybody around me.
Yeah, no.
okay,
Spectacular.
No way that could
So-
ever go bad, right?
So I get...
Yeah. not with the berserking zealot empress coming your way
So
or
yeah,
anything.
I get 2 spell slots, 4 cantrips. I have so many fucking cantrips now.
Literally all of them, basically.
Yeah,
Oh, can't you?
and...
Too bad the only one you ever need is Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, that's fucking great. But I finally got a touch cantrip for when somebody finally gets too close to me.
There you go.
Shut
That's
the crap.
smart. That's smart.
But
you may need that one in the future.
yeah, and
May.
I also got what I think is possibly one of the best abilities, Tides of Chaos, which means that I gain advantage on any attack roll, saving throw, or ability check.
And then
Basically, daily inspiration.
and then basically if he casts a sorcerer spell before the day is over, I can force him to roll on the wild
By the
magic
way,
chart.
would that also apply to using sorcerer spell slots? Because I
It's-
think it should.
Yeah, it specifically say I would say yes. If you use the sorcerer spell slots, yes, that's what I would say, because you're drawing on
Okay.
that magic to use.
So basically, if I use a sorcerer spell or
Right.
use a sorcerer spell slot, all right,
Correct.
that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and as for the spells that I took, they were Magic Missile. And I forgot something really important that I did. I got rid of Detect Magic on my Warlock side and took it on my Sorcerer side.
So that you could then, when you get to
Take-
change off, yeah. You can change the warlock spell to something better.
I chose scrying.
Nice. Nice. That seems like it will be very useful in the future.
By the way, I'm going to commission a focus worth $1,000.
1,000 gold crowns, yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I need to do. Do you
do
think they would let me?
You have a friend now that you're staying with back in the camp. Maybe that'll be during our social portion.
Yeah,
here.
sure. I'll sell him.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. So
hit
the group's return kind of, and hit dice. Holy cow, that's bad. You gained 3 health. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, health. Right.
Yeah, and I forgot, Kree, what did you get at level 10?
I got something very useful for our current point in time called hide in plain sight.
Nice.
Which allows me to just ambush anything I please.
Yep.
Because-
Basically, you can move
yes.
units. You can basically, or it's just for yourself. Sorry, I was thinking pass without a trace. My bad.
I already have that.
Yeah.
Oh god, with both of those together.
Right.
Wow.
So that was almost max.
That's good.
Not as good.
You were 1 point off from max.
Yep. So you gain 12.
Three total.
My new HP total is 118.
Yep. And that was for knocked, right? That second one?
Yes.
Yeah. Totally. Cool.
Damn it, you monster.
Knocked didn't gain anything. He's a happy lizard.
Yeah, totally. So
Okay, so one thing I want to do, I want to see if this guy has any magical talent.
yeah, in a second, I want to get to the people who haven't been doing anything all game.
Okay.
And see what they've been up to. So the next day comes, you guys did your thing for like your action, but we'll start the social stuff with you. So Kree, Morella, and Aelin, socially, what have you guys been doing while all of your friends, the rest of your friends, are out on expeditions? Is there anything specific that anybody's been doing besides what they stated before? Looking into Middenstag, addressing minor issues in integration, and coordinating healers and stuff like that.
Well,
Huh? Integration.
for Morella, I would be looking for Aelin.
Well, I think you know where to find her.
I was gonna say it's not very hard
See.
to find her.
And the reason for that,
She's literally
It's 'cause-
glowing.
so
I mean,
what I
except for
do,
that one time, but that's fine.
Elbow
Yeah.
deep in the wounded.
so
The new
When I-
hospital that I've created. That's right.
Yeah. when I created the new hospital, it is probably like around noonish at this point when Morella does this, as she simply like just watches probably for a bit as like the efficiency that you've created with your staff, quote unquote, as she calls for you. Aelin,
Oh, Marilla, hi. Is there something I can do for you?
she kind of like rubs her eyes a little bit and she's like, no, I couldn't find you last night and I was worried that you got lost in the camp.
Oh no, I was just, very busy. Is all.
Busy in the night, I see.
Yeah, so I was here very late, tending to. Then she kind of just gestures around at the general chaos around her.
And she nods and she smirks. She's like, oh, well, alright, that's good. Tell me, have you seen the others? Are they back from their task?
I'm not sure. I really haven't left here since I got here in the morning. It seems like, and she kind of like looks up at the sky and kind of looks back at you, like it may be time for their arrival. Why?
And she's like, oh, I was just wondering. Oh, I guess I didn't notice the transition. Anyways, bye, Aelin. And then she just leaves. She looks pretty tired.
Oh, okay. Make sure you get some rest, Marilla.
And she leaves without saying anything. And, what are the nobles doing?
Yeah, they're probably in their tents or addressing minor tasks throughout the camp as well. And kind of as you're walking away, I think Daniela probably walks up to close the scene and says to you, Aelin, like, probably she's stripped out of her armor and like just has like her undershirt on. She's probably like drenched in sweat from like putting up a new tent or something. And she comes over and she's like wiping sweat from her brow, and she says, "That girl will be the death of herself yet."
No, not if I can help it.
She just like shakes her head, and we see Morella kind of traipse off. You could probably find some of them in the war tent. You had some talks previously while you were like working out your Middenstag plan. With that's the wrong one. I want this one. Yeah. With Lord Grauenberg. He kind of like helped you out, or like was at least a reverberation board for you.
Yeah.
And then Lord Tenderfoot and Lady Schwinn and Lady Tolsbeck and Lady Luftberg, and I'm sure you could find the wonderful Cahill around somewhere.
Yeah. I guess nobles was the wrong word. That I wanted to find the officers.
Oh, so like the generals and stuff.
More so like the lieutenants. Like
okay, yeah. Because like the nobles act as basically the generals as well. But yeah, you could go like go through the military ranks and find some of them.
Yeah, and essentially like what she did the night prior, which is like talk to like probably some discouragement and things like that. She probably asks their officers' names and goes to individually and like speaks with them and tells them that like these soldiers are discouraged. Try to encourage them, not forcibly, but type of deal. She's trying to encourage the officers to encourage the men on top of it.
Yeah, totally.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're trying to boost morale.
Yeah.
Cool. And Kree, we determined you're basically dealing with the minor squabbles and stuff that come up, which are pronounced. Yeah. It's not easy. I think that it's mostly the lizardmen that have issues.
For sure.
As humanity is used to dealing with other races like dwarves and elves and halflings like all the time, it is much more easy and willing for them to accept the fact that, hey, these people are here to fight with us. The lizardmen, on the other hand, though, being a very isolationist race, they're having more issues.
And these ones who don't want to be involved with humans at all.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're mostly there like arguing and, shutting people down and yelling at people or, whatever you're doing to try and persuade or diffuse situations throughout the camp. So I think that the next thing that we see is you get like a new like hospital tent like all erected and stuff. And Lord Cahill, you hear Lord Cahill's horns blowing, approaching the religious area. And there's obviously like a crowd of people when his horns blow that kind of come to like circle the religious portion of the tents and stuff. And you can see him, he rides atop his tall brown gelding, kind of like trots into the middle of the circle, and he's flanked by Lady Luftberg and Lord Tenderfoot actually are with him. And as the horns kind of blow, he comes up and he rides up and he kind of turns his horse to the side and he looks over the crowd with a big smile on his face, and he turns back and he gestures to the tent and begins to speak, and he gives a rousing speech about how it's through the wonderful effort of our healers, and he says, and I would like to mention the one who made this all happen. She holds a special place in all of our hearts. Lady Aelin Ashriver, head of the Church of Shalia. Please come address the people. And he kind of like motions for you to come join him up on like a little dais that he's found. He just carries a soapbox around with him to stand on at any point in time, ever.
The man is a walking soapbox. That's
He
true,
is.
though.
He is.
I begrudgingly
cheer.
walk forward for sure, but it doesn't look like I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, there's cheers going up from the crowd. And as you get closer, he kind of like pulls you up and like, you know, like puts his arm around you and like holds up his hand for the cheer to happen. And you're solidly there now, not going anywhere. He's holding you there. And he like kind of like does like the side mouth, like leans down to you, and he says, "You did good work, Duff."
I just kind of smile and say, "You know, I hate this sort of thing."
Yeah, and I think he very, very quietly mentions, he's like, "But how are they to know the future? Well, the future of us in the Empire." And before you can like say anything, he just kind of like, you know, cheers again, and the crowd grows, and maybe you like look at him a bit incredulously, and he just gives you like a sly little wink, and eventually the crowd dies down and he trots off and gets back on his horse. And a few moments later, you're like, you know, you're maybe a bit flustered, and you're like digging through your pockets looking for something, and there's a note in one of them. And you pull it out and you unravel it. And it's clearly written in his hand. And it gives you a location to meet later tonight. Obviously.
Obviously. Yeah, I mean, I memorize the location and then burn the paper.
She's so good at intrigue.
She only does that because she needed the fire for something.
Sure, yeah.
Eat it, it's good roughage.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then we see the first to return is probably Farron. You didn't have any complications like, you know, a fight or spending 8 hours casting a spell. So you're probably the first to return. And when you do, there's a loud like cheer, and you have no injuries, and there are, you know, shouts and hoops and hollers and joy and all of this other stuff. And coming out to meet you is actually Lady Tolsbeck. And she comes out to greet you, and she shakes her hand, Farron, and she says, "'Twas a great wonder that you did here. I am very grateful for rescuing these people. It is a show of that all is not loss."
Aye, come now, my lady. It is what anyone would do.
I think she shakes her head and she says, "No, I can say that it is assuredly not. You're a good man. Farron it was, yes?"
Yes, my lady.
"This is a name I will remember." And she kind of like gives you one of those like unreadable stares, and then perhaps committing your face to memory, and then
so there's no
walks
wink
off.
in this.
There's no wink. No, it's just like
Okay.
she like stares intently at you for a while, and then goes off. Like I said, as if committing your face or name or personality to memory.
Both good and bad. Okay.
Right, yeah. So, Farron, you're reunited with everybody, and then the next to return is probably Arkady. And I think this causes the most commotion out of all the things that occur, right? Because you come back and, Arkady, how do you want to approach your return from victory?
I think partly for just the look of it, he wants to be quite visibly in conversation with some of the lizard folk leaders as they're arriving back in camp.
Sure, yeah.
So it's clear that they are all getting along really well, and that they've had a good run of the day. So that it's the best, hopefully, for morale and integration that he can make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's present. Like, it's probably like you guys are in depth conversation, and there's like the guards like shout, like hail you, and As you approach, there's trumpets sounding, and there's some men that come out, and Aelin, you get the word that there are wounded that need tending to, being in charge of the new hospital.
You're prepared.
And Kree, you get word that your men were involved in combat, obviously, because you're the leader of the Lizardmen. And Marilla, you get word that, all the returning force of units has returned, and they had a victory, or they had a battle. No one's declared victory yet, but they had a skirmish.
Yeah.
So,
would Morella catch wind of Farron's return?
yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Then she'd probably go to greet Farron a little bit afterwards.
Yeah,
And obviously, I would go and see the Lizardmen, see how they fared.
totally.
See my fellows.
Yeah, so I mean, the only question is, Farron, are you also going to go, or are you busy dealing with your own things? Because this is not long after you get back.
Yeah, now I can touch base with everyone else.
Okay.
first.
So yeah, so eventually the four of you make it over to Arcady, and you kind of have to push through a group of people, and Kree, you go to see your men, and I assume Aelin goes to see the wounded, and Morella and Farron basically, it's where you're both, pushing through the crowd, and you come out, right in front of Arcady, at the same time, and you just kind of, look at each other. And Arcady, you're probably, giving some last instructions to the Lizardmen, sergeants or whatever that were in the formation. And with the two of you there, you notice the Lizardmen, give Arcady, a little bow or salute as they go to leave, which is irregular, obviously.
He, of course, returns it sharply.
Right, yeah, and you spin around Arcady and you see Farron and Morella standing there.
How was your venture to the village, Farron?
Yes,
Right,
I'm
very-
wondering that too.
It was very unextraordinary. I just collected some of the village people that were in hiding. But it seems your visit in the forest was a lot more surprising.
In some ways all too expected, but yes, eventful to say least. We should speak with War Council.
Yes, that would be most wise. But in the meantime, Farron, I have a need to ask you something.
Yes.
If you're not free now, perhaps later. It is to be discussed in private.
Of course, Riley.
Cool, yeah.
Come, Petrov.
So Marilla and Petrov, you guys start making your way over to the war tent, basically. And Kree and Aelin, you guys probably link up at some point over the wounded, and you're bringing the bodies in. Losses in total? Let me just make sure I do this correct, because I want to be accurate. So losses in total, you lost about 50 men out of the total contingent of skinks. Not that many, but a decent amount. It certainly was a skirmish.
It got bloody in there.
Yeah, got a little bit bloody. But from all accounts, the Lizardmen give you, the enemy lost much more. They lost far more than the Lizardmen did. So overall, it's a victory. It's a victory in the most basic sense. You routed the enemy. You did not completely destroy them, but you did rout them, and that's always good. So when you arrive there, what do the two of you do? Do you combine forces, or is there conversations that are had? Kree, do you talk with any of your men about how things went down and what happened? Aelin, do you how do you go about addressing injuries, that kind of stuff? How do you go about triage and stuff like that?
I would go and find the Great Crest that went out
Yeah,
and
totally.
ask his opinion on the battle.
Whoa. Somebody disconnected their headphones, I think.
Gee.
Ooh, what was that?
God.
Yeah, so you go find the Great Crest, and he's probably getting like his arm bandaged. He seems to have taken a minor injury. It bites off and the wound is tied and tightened, and he kind of like flexes as you're approaching him, like, getting the movement. And he looks up and he gives you a salute and he says, "Chosen One."
Crest, how did it go? How was the skirmish?
We fared well. That's about as much as could be expected. The enemy was... well, they were far more perceptive than we gave them credit for.
And, of course I'm speaking to him just in Lizard Men, since this is a private conversation.
Totally.
I say, and what of Arkady? How did he do?
Admirably. The men have respect for him now. He slew the leader of these creatures. Dropped down from a tree, he did.
Good. Spread this among the other men. They need to know there's been some problems in camp while you were away.
Yeah, he gives you like a raspy laugh. He's like, "Ha! As if I could stop them."
No one can stop them. But we can try to make it slightly easier. At least.
Yeah, and I think he says, "I'll have the minstrel write something. Perhaps it will fare well."
Good. Well, go rest. You and your men have deserved it.
Yeah, and he gives you another salute, and he goes about, like, he's not injured enough to like go rest right now, but he goes about giving orders and getting the men out of formation and into downtime. Aelin, what about you? There are some severely injured individuals that come through, and you notice immediately that they do have the same types of injuries, with that like partial paralyzation that the others had.
Yeah, so I think that Aelin would use this as an opportunity to basically test her systems that she's created.
Yeah.
To kind of hang back, obviously to attend to those who are in dire need immediately, but for those who are like minorly wounded or things like that, I think she's actually more or less taking notes, like saying like, okay, this definitely works. These two are great together. This works fine. We're so behind in this. This is not a working area. Like, kind of making that mental checklist to improve it even more.
Yeah. So I have a note here, based, I assume, on your rolls last time. While you may be great at getting a bunch of people together, it's still very disorganized.
Yeah. I wasn't very convincing.
It's kind of a bit of chaos in the ranks, compounded by the fact that all of the injured are lizard men, and that adds like a whole nother element of first of all, there's physiological differences, but also there's cultural differences. Some lizard men are like refusing treatment based on religious desires, like they need to pray and their injuries will go away, like some ridiculous stuff, and you're like, no, you're bleeding out, like we need to bandage you. So there's a lot of organization issues. Lizard folk do indeed grow stuff back at like tails and stuff. That is the thing that can occur. So a lot of them are like not very cooperative, and your healers are a bit too hesitant to like force the issue. So you're doing a lot of like running around and trying to basically get things together.
Seeing this and expecting that it wasn't a perfect system, I think that she's trying to put things into place and change things as quickly as possible. But I also think that if there's a spare moment to send Daniela to get Kree, I think that she would do so as soon as possible.
Okay, yeah, so you basically want to compile some information and get Kree's assistance in trying to smooth this over a little
Yeah,
bit.
at the very least, with the most combatant patience, hopefully have him translate our intentions.
Yeah, and so Kree, you probably find Kree like taking some reports from some other great crests that were in the battle, like tactics and stuff like that, and basically assisting with there was probably a couple of crests that died, right? So assisting like reassignment of those units and stuff like that. So you find him like in the ranks of the healthy, and you approach him.
Yeah, I would probably elbow deep in blood and not even really noticing. Just say, Kree, I'm sure you're quite busy, but we could really use you down at the hospital, which is what she's calling it now because it's basically a hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, Aelin. Cress, with me. We go.
And I think on the way, I would just explain, so-and-so's refusing this treatment because of this reason. We don't know how to get through to them, blah, 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 etc.
Yeah.
I turn to my Cress. I'm like, anyone with a chest wound, anything that can't grow back, hold them down. Let Aelin and her priest do as they need. Their healing works. Trust me on this one.
We have the manpower now.
Yeah, and so like it's a little brutal because like that's exactly what they do, right? Like some of the great crests literally tie people's arms behind their backs to a bed so that the priest can go over there and heal them. And so like some of your healers are like a little bit hesitant because the lizardman is like snapping at them and then gets like slapped by the crest until he calms down. There's probably a few like that are knocked unconscious because they're being just because the other thing about lizardmen, when they do take injuries, they're known to go into like furies.
They get angry.
Yeah, they get angry. So it's not probably necessarily that they are like combative and don't want healing. It's just that like their adrenaline is on high. Like their healing procedure is basically just to get really angry until everything is okay. It's basically like Wolverine.
I was just gonna say.
Oh,
so Logan, basically.
I actually had an idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell one of my the crest that's following me. Go and gather a group of Saurus warriors. Assign them to this healing unit. They'll be of help with when more of our lizard men come in to get healing.
Totally, yeah. So you basically contract some security for Aelin.
Yes. Yeah, bodyguards.
Cool, yeah. So I think that with that kind of toned down a little bit, we see Arcadia and Marilla walk up to like the war camp. The war tent. You're let in, and you see that the full contingent of all the counselors are there. Lord Kayla is sitting in his chair, kind of like his lips are pursed and his hands are like steepled like underneath his chin, and he's looking at the map. And as you come in, he beams you a smile and says, "Ah, yes, my friends, come in. Join us. We were just getting ready to discuss this glorious turn of events." And I think that's probably a great place to take a break.
Awesome.
Fair enough.
So, let's be back at... let's take a little bit of a short one. Let's be back at 10 after the hour.
Okay.
All right. All right, guys. Be right back. I'm going to turn on some music. We're going to do about 5-minute break. And we'll be back with more Siege of the Empire. Hope you guys are having fun.